What is it? Good afternoon, everybody. It's fantastic to be participating from the other side of the planet at CFP. This is my first CFP, and I'm completely thrilled. So thanks again, Amy. I'm a technologist. I stumbled into privacy about 13 or 14 years ago after hearing just too many times that privacy was not a technology issue. I took it upon myself to find out what the difference was. And it's fascinating now that with so much talk about privacy by design, that privacy really is a technology issue now. And, but we're still navigating our way between what I think is a really important conceptual gap between technology and privacy. So I'm going to share my screen now, if the techno gods are on our side. And we'll go from there. Cool. So look, there's obviously gold in the online hills. We live in an age where billionaires are self-made on the
Hey,
back
Steve.
of... Yeah.
We don't have your screen yet. Can you try that again?
I will. Pardon me, folks.
There we go. It's starting to work. Yes. Okay.
Well, that's not
But very good.
that's not a bad glitch in the scheme of things, I guess.
Yep.
So look, I was saying that we live in an age where billion-dollar fortunes are being made off the back of this intangible asset, namely personal information. The world is just awash with data. It's an infinitely usable raw material. It's an invisible byproduct of our daily digital lives. It's left behind by ordinary people who don't even perceive it, I think, let alone understand it. Many digital businesses proceed on the basis that all of this raw data is up for grabs. There's an assumption that data in the public domain is free for all, and that if you're clever enough to grab it, then you're entitled to extract whatever you can from it. So I'm here today to actually show that some of those assumptions are naive. Conventional data protection laws turn out to be surprisingly powerful in the face of big data. Data miners, in fact, are ignoring international privacy laws much at their peril. We'll have a couple of case studies to show the sort of business risks that people are running. But look, on the other hand, orthodox privacy management does not cope well with the way that new personal information can be synthesized from the data that we collect today. And this presentation is going to try and bridge the gap that I talked about between data analytics and privacy, and outline a fresh compact that we call privacy, big privacy, a fresh compact that we call big privacy in the work of Constellation research. Now, it's often said that technology outpaces the law, and it's just not the case by and large. The question, is privacy dead? This question's been with us for over 100 years. In 1890, Brandeis and Warren were exercised by photography and the telegraph, of course. In 1970, which is where this apparently modern Newsweek cover comes from, it's actually 40-something years old. 1970, they were concerned with the risk of computers and mass communication and databases. And today, we have a wide range of interested parties casting fresh doubts on privacy. But look, I say honestly, if we've been asking the same rhetorical question for decades, then surely the answer is no. OECD privacy principles were set out over 30 years ago. These are data privacy principles, and they still serve us pretty well. The OECD privacy is essentially about restraint. Data privacy means basically that organisations shouldn't be collecting more personal information than they need. They should be telling individuals what information is being collected about them and why. They should not be using information collected for one purpose for other unrelated purposes. And they should not be disclosing personal information to unrelated parties. Now, outside the US at least, rights-based privacy law has had a number of very significant victories against technologies that could not have been barely imagined when the OECD principles were first drawn up. So let's have a look at a couple of these. Street View. The Google Street View cars, while they're driving up and down the street photographing the streetscape, also listen out for Wi-Fi hubs. and they plot the locations to go into the geolocation database. Now, all of that is fine, by and large. But in 2010, it was found that Street View cars were also collecting Wi-Fi network traffic, and some of the traffic was unencrypted, and some of that unencrypted traffic contained personal information like usernames, bank account details, passwords. Privacy commissioners in Australia and the Netherlands and Korea and elsewhere examined the case and found that there was a serious breach of data protection laws. Now, I had several discussions with technologists at the time who argued that Wi-Fi data was in the public domain and it was not private. And moreover, they like to say, by definition, Wi-Fi data could not be private. But these people fail to grasp the technicality in the law that data protection does not usually distinguish between public and private. It's pretty paradoxical in that regard, but data protection looks at identifiable data. And if data is identifiable and if individuals have not consented to the collection, then privacy conditions attach. Look, another technology neutral case with lessons for big data is facial recognition by Facebook. In 2012, Facebook ran afoul of the EU laws. Now, the mechanics are as follows. When users tag themselves or their friends in photos, Facebook creates biometric templates, and the templates are subsequently used by the company to identify people in all of the other photos in its vast stores. So it's repurposing anonymous photos for various forms of private sector surveillance, if you like. European regulators found that biometric identification without consent was a breach of European laws. And by 2012, by the end of the year, they'd actually forced Facebook, one of the biggest companies in the world, they'd forced Facebook to destroy their biometric templates and to stop facial recognition in all of Europe. So that's quite a show of force of technology-neutral privacy laws against one of the biggest companies of our age. And the lesson for big data privacy is this. It doesn't matter if you infer personal information almost out of thin air using sophisticated analytics. You're still subject to the privacy principles like openness and collection and use limitation. So look, it bears repeating that the collection principle is generally technology neutral. It's blind to the matter of collection. Collection limitation applies whether your personal information is collected directly by questionnaire or indirectly via biometric facial recognition or data mining. And so we are going to talk about where big data does create some challenges for conventional privacy management practices. The cornerstone of privacy is collection limitation. It's the conceptual cousin of the need to know principle and the least privilege principle in security. And I think that collection limitation is the best starting point. In fact, I think it's the only rational starting point for privacy by design. Every IT architecture should really start with an analysis of what personal information is really needed for the business. And then it should restrict itself accordingly using the need to know principle. But here's the challenge. The challenge is in privacy policy. A conventional privacy policy sets out what personal information is collected, why it's collected, how, when, where it's collected. But with the best will in the world, even if a data mining outfit wants to be transparent, it's really difficult to specify all of the personal information that might be collected out of the raw material down the track. Now, with big data, the privacy policy cannot be frozen. And by frozen, I don't refer to the notorious shifting privacy policies of the big infomopolies. I'm referring to the reality of the unknown. There's this explicit promise in conventional privacy management that responsible businesses will tell you what they know about you. The promise is they'll tell you what they know. And in big data, we think that the promise needs to be that we will admit what we might know and have some sort of dynamic conversation so that people can understand what might be known about them in future. So we're calling for a new pact. Constellation research is exercised by the implications of big data and analytics for conventional privacy. And I was listening in on the stream before I started, and I noted a previous speaker called for a more modest level of consumer protection. And, I'm going to call for the opposite. I think that we need to be really bold. I think we need a privacy promise that is as compelling and as brave as big data itself. So the pact is as follows. We're calling for respect and restraint. More than ever, in the face of these temptations of big data, we need to remember that privacy is about restraint. Privacy is not only about what you do with data, it's about what you don't do with the data. Openness is the cornerstone of privacy, and for big privacy, we're looking for super openness or super transparency.
Hey, Steve.
Data innovation is going to continue at breakneck speed. If privacy rather is about being open about personal information, then we think that advanced privacy means going even further and telling customers more about the business models and more about the tools and more about the results that data mining is expected to return.
Hey, Steve, is it possible for you to wrap up in just a few seconds?
Yeah, I've got 1 minute to go, Paul, thanks.
Okay.
And so, we want to see businesses engaging in a fair deal for privacy. Now, this audience will know about the difficulties of conventional consent models, but we've got quite a few forward thinkers now looking at how to construct a conversation around permissions. One idea is to allow users to opt in and opt out and opt back in again as they see the shifting value in the shifting value propositions while big data evolves. Big data should be continuously updating the personal information deal, and instead of opt-in, the idea that I'm developing is called opt-forward. So look, in closing, thanks, Paul. We're not supposed to be using balance metaphors anymore, but I like to actually say that there are tensions in privacy. The biggest tension is going to be the price of restraint. If privacy is about what we don't do with someone else's personal information, then big privacy actually brings a big opportunity cost. If businesses are serious about privacy, then they really have to forego some of the potential riches to be gained from hanging on to all of that data. So look, I reckon that if we're serious about privacy by design, and it's such a slogan these days, but if we're serious about privacy by design, then we need to acknowledge these competing requirements, we need to acknowledge the tensions, and we need to develop new ways to resolve them. Thanks so much.